What, on Facebook? No, the one question that has been driving me insane, especially the past couple of weeks, is who's the GOAT? Who's the greatest of all time? And you've got guys that are my age, maybe a little bit older, and you're going to hear names like Roger and Joel Robert. And then you've got people making Roger comparisons with Ricky Carmichael. It's different. It's different eras, different equipment, different tracks. It's the same thing like when I was watching Mickey Mantle. You know, it's like, look, Grandpa, Mickey Mantle's at bat. It's going to be great. My grandfather would say, what? That's nothing. You should have seen Babe Ruth. And it goes on. And it's Hank Aaron, and then it's the other guy from the St. Louis Cardinals, Mark McGuire. Parks are getting smaller. Bats that have cork in them. Guys are on steroids. And not that I'm saying anybody's on steroids in motocross, but I'm tired of the GOAT controversy, the big comparison. I can't take it. Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe Abadi, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thank you for joining us. Jordan, Chelsea, Susie, thank you for helping me put the show together. And thank you, the viewers at home, who join us every Wednesday to watch the show. Jordan, let's get down to the starting line, and I'll tell everyone what they're going to see tonight. Starting line is, of course, brought to you by Motion Pro. For all your specialized tools, cables, and controls, be sure to visit Motion Pro online at motionpro.com. And the next time try this segment, I've got a great little tip for you on how to make a really trick fork protector for your bike for not a lot of money. In the Moto Showcase, a 1976 Honda CR250 sent in to us by Dino Correo. Really nice bike. And here's the problem segment. We've got a couple of questions that were sent in by you. One of them involves a square barrel Mako. What's it worth? Something very special tonight. Got a bike sent in to us by Charles Goff, recently sold on eBay. The bike was new, NOS, brand new. You're going to have a chance to put in your comments what you thought the bike sold for. Also, got a great little thing on race day coverage that Jordan was up to a race in the Pacific Northwest, and we've got a little field correspondent, Brandon. You got to hear this kid. He might put me out of a job. Trivia returns tonight. Finding number 49, the Indy Excellence Finalist Award went to this book by Keith Geisner. And I want to say right now, if you have won in the last 60 days, do not call in. If you've won that book in the last 60 days, do not call in for the trivia contest. It's coming up a little bit later on in the show. Don't forget to keep sharing, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. Share the show. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to mention Motion Pro. Oh, we'll have a random share giveaway winner too. That's good with the Motion Pro. Make sure you keep commenting Motion Pro. We'll have a random share giveaway winner. Don't forget to sign up for our YouTube channel. Subscribe. You'll get a little alert just like this, tells you when we're live on YouTube. You can see all the shows that we've done in the past, plus all the interviews from Vintage Motocross Radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, how are all the experts watching the show? The real pros, they're sitting back at home on their couch looking at their big screen TV while they comment from their phone watching the show. That's the most comfortable way to do it. It's the best way to do it, and you can see all the action on your big screen TV here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Hey, don't forget, guys, keep sending in your bikes for the Moto Showcase and also your questions for our Here's the Problem segment. It's one of my favorite parts of the show, and it's how you get to participate. It's how we get to correspond with you a little bit, and some really good questions have been coming in lately, but we always need more, so don't forget. Get a message to me use the inbox on the Vintage Motocross Q&A page. Get me your questions. Get some bikes sent in to us. We'll keep featuring them here on the show. As always, I want to thank all of our sponsors, Vinco, Motion Pro, Preston Petty Products, Racer X, Sunrise Vapor Blasting, Glen Products, Full Circle Racing, and Northwest Mako CZ.
Tonight's Next Time Try This segment is brought to you by Vinco. Keep the ride going. I want to share with you tonight a very simple and cost-effective way to make a set of fork guards for your lower fork tubes of your bike. They're going to snap on just like that. It's made of PVC. Now, when you go to buy this PVC, you want to make sure you get the right wall thickness. This is about 74 thousandths. So don't get PVC plastic pipe that's going to be really thick like they use for water. Also, the inside diameter is about 1.5 inches across. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to remove some of the pipe, some of the plastic pipe, just like this. You want to remove 1.25 inches. That's from here to here. Now, yes, I just said it's 1.5 inches across, but it's about 5.5 inches in circumference, and you're going to want to remove 1.25 inches from that piece of PVC. You're going to do that with some simple tools like this little T-square right here, or I'm sorry, not a T-square, it's some kind of an angle square, I don't know. Also, a digital caliper like this might be handy as far as measuring the wall thickness. Also, for that 1.25 inches, you might want to use that. You're going to mark it with a Sharpie. You're going to put this right across the top. Hopefully you've cut it square. You'll be able to mark it down just like that. And that's something else I meant to talk to you about just a moment ago too, is the first thing you really want to do is when you buy that piece of PVC, depending on how long it is, you want to cut it just long enough for your lower fork. Well, with a piece of ordinary PVC, take a measurement, measure your lower fork leg, and with a little patience, it'll snap on just like that. A little added tip if you want to put a little piece of white tape around there, or if you want to put some detail in your lower fork like that, you could always sand it down or use some type of sanding tool with your Dremel or your die grinder. I hope you enjoyed this segment, and don't forget to visit Vinco online. Vinco, keep the ride going.
In the Moto Showcase tonight, which is sponsored by Preston Petty Products, we're going to be taking a look at a 1976 Honda CR250. This bike was sent in to us by Dino Corral. And here it is in the picture. It's a beautiful bike. Dino says that he received this bike as a basket case. Both rims were toast when he found it, so he sourced a set of 1974 rims. His goal was to save it and to do a nice rider level rebuild on it. It had a 75 motor, and he was able to track down a really nice engine that he replaced from the 75 motor with the 76. He did a complete rebuild kit on it and used a lot of parts from Vinco, including the rod kit, the piston kit, the bearings, and the seals. He sourced the fenders and the side panels from VMX. He had the tank and the frame professionally painted. The wheels he had respoked, and the hubs were done as well. Well, Dino, you did an absolutely beautiful job on this bike, and it looks a little bit nicer than just your average rebuild, that's for sure. I always found the 76 Honda to be a really, really nice looking bike. While performance-wise, it lacked a little bit compared to the YZ and the RM of that time, but I really liked the simplicity of it and how it was all red. Looked a little like the factory bikes of that time. Dino Corral, if you send us in your mailing address, I'll be happy to get you a nice gift, compliments of Vintage Motocross Q&A and Preston Petty Products. And speaking of Preston Petty Products, they've got a front and rear fender and a GP grip special going on this week, just $110.95. If you purchase them separately, they would be $128.95. So buy them all together, bundle them up, just $110.95. Be sure to visit them online at PrestonPettyProducts.com. They've got some other specials there as well. I've been talking to you about them every week, where they're bundling up some things like fenders and grips, fenders and jerseys. Got a nice selection of stuff at PrestonPettyProducts.com. In the Here's a Problem segment tonight, which is sponsored by Motion Pro. Let's get a look at some of the questions that you sent in earlier this week. Mark Aurelio. Last week, you talked about CR Competition Green. It was a big help. Would you know the paint code for the Honda Silver as well? You know, I did call it Competition Green last week on the show, and that was really incorrect. It's actually called Expert Green. And I did give you the code, or I told you some other spray cans that you could use to match that green. Now, As far as the code goes for the silver, it's N as in Nancy, H as in Harry, 42M as in Michael. That will get you the silver that you need for your Honda Elsinore and for your 125 and for your 250 also, as far as the side panels and the fenders go. Keep in mind, this is a two-stage paint. So if you go to order it or you're at an automotive supply place for paint, you want to tell them that it's two-stage because there is a clear coat over it. Also, if I called it competition green last week on the show, it's actually expert green, not competition green. So it's expert green on the green. And don't forget, it's clear coated over the green on the CR125 tank. NH42M, that's the code you're looking for. Marcus. Anonymous. I don't know why this guy didn't want to have his name on the show, but he didn't want to. Anyway, he said he had 4 sets of Mako cases. 2 of them were square barrels, and he thinks 2 of them were radials. Each one is a different letter before the serial number, T, S, U, and K. Does that indicate what year they were built? No, it does not. It indicates what year, it indicates what transmission is in those cases. Now, for the T, that would be a close ratio for the square barrel. So if it starts with T, that's close ratio square barrel. If it starts with S, as in Sam, that's a wide ratio for your square barrel cases. If it's U, it's a close ratio on your radial engine. And if it's a K, it's a wide ratio on your radial engine. So those letters don't have anything to do with when or what year the bike was built. It does indicate what transmissions are in those bikes. So if you go to sell those cases or you're looking for transmissions, now you know what you should be looking for. Thanks for the question. Gavin Mamola, this isn't a how do I fix it question, but it is, but I hope you do use it. What's been your favorite interview so far on Vintage Motocross Radio? Everyone thinks I'm probably going to be really diplomatic here and say, well, they've all been great, but they have all been great, but diplomacy has nothing to do with that. Why I'm saying they're all great is because they've all offered something different throughout all the interviews. In other words, it's hard to compare one interview to the next, not because of the guest, but of what they experienced. In other words, I remember having Scott Harden on, and Scott Harden talked about racing a 6-day event, and he was supposed to be in Morocco, went over the border, and wound up in Libya. And it was a very scary time in the early 80s for an American to be in Libya. It's hard to compare that Scott Harden story with maybe Mary McGee talking about how she met Steve McQueen and that's how she got into desert racing, or talked to when Mary was talking to James Dean and taught him how to ride a motorcycle. In other words, there are so many different comparisons in the stories within the interviews. I can't say one interview was my favorite or it was the best. Now, as far as stories go, Danny Laporte, I think, had the best story I've ever heard in motocross, and I've heard a lot of it. Danny Laporte talked about racing a GP. It was shortly after he won the World Championship. There was the last GP in Russia. He had won, and somehow or other, he wound up with a Russian Army officer's uniform. It got back to the room. Him and George Jobey were there. There was some party going on, and the next thing you know, they're all down in this hall for this ceremony, and George Jobey walked into the Russian ceremony wearing a Russian officer's outfit. It was an international incident. You've got to hear Danny tell the story. So what was my favorite? They're all great. Some stories are just a little bit better than the other, and the one with Daniel Laporte and George Jobey, that one sticks out in my mind pretty much more than the rest. But Gavin, thanks for the question, and thanks for listening to Vintage Motocross Radio.
Hi, I'm Tommy Croft, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abadi. We'll be right back with my dear friend Joe.
Hi guys, Brandon here with Motion Pro, bringing to you the world's first non-leaking cable luber. You heard me right. Non-leaking cable luber. Motion Pro has designed a very ingenious tool. It's very simple to use. There's 2 halves and a rubber grommet that seals the canister around the cable. By connecting the 2 halves together, you create a compression fit. Now once that's tight, you insert the straw for your cable lube. Of course, I'm going to recommend Motion Pro's very best cable lube. You insert the straw in the end of the cable luber. You fill the fluid into the canister, and there's nowhere else for the fluid to go but into the cable. It's quick, It's clean, it's affordable at $19.99, available from your retailers nationwide. Motion Pro Cable Luber V3, get it today. Keep your cables fresh.
Another great product from Motion Pro. The Pacific Northwest Vintage Motocross was this week. Jordan was up there, and he did bring us some coverage from the Riverdale MX. We have a little video coming up, and we've got Brandon giving the race coverage. Where do you see this? You're gonna put me out to work, this kid. Where do you see this video that Jordan put together with Brandon?
Hey guys, welcome back to Vintage Motocross Q&A. I'm getting ready to go on what are they called? Vintage Novice.
What bike is that?
1983 CR60.
What's your other bike?
86 CR80.
What year were you born?
2009. Hey Kathy, how do you like your time here at Riverdale Raceway?
I'm loving it. How are you liking
You
it?
can go. Great.
Yeah, you want a big, huge duffel bag, huh? We can fit you in it.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
Hi guys, welcome back to Vintage Motocross Q&A. Here Jim Murphy's bike. Hey Jim.
Hey buddy, I got my pipe fixed. While you guys were out having fun, the pipe's welded back together. My buddy Mark had a oxyacetylene torch, so we got it fixed back up. So the bike's ready to go again.
What happened to the shocks?
Shock's broke in half in the
Snapped
tow.
right off.
Snapped it right off, both of them. It's a debris field over there. And that thing just caved in, broke both the shocks off. Never seen anything like it.
As you can see here, they're getting the Riverdale track ready for round 2 of day 2 of an awesome weekend. That's a cool bike.
Isn't it? It's a 1978 YZ250 that I won at the Northwest Challenge through their raffle for share. Cool thing, there's going to be a new Northwest Challenge this year, August, I believe, 17 and 18, watchable for all VMX. Be there. Right? You going to be there?
Yeah,
I'm going to be there.
I'm not missing any of them.
Me neither.
Tell us what's going on.
It's a typical picture on the track at vintage racing. You see the red rocket taken apart again. So let's ask the owner of this beautiful bike, Dave Kramer, what is the problem today? Or I mean this afternoon. We're trying to find out what the problem is with this beautiful bike here.
Neglect?
Neglect? Or is it because it's a Honda?
No. Nothing to do with the brand. Has to do with the owner.
Are you sure?
I think it's probably a loose nut between the seat and handlebars.
Yeah. This is kind of like a typical picture we know from you, pushing the bike off the track or taking it apart in between your motos.
I haven't
wonder,
pushed yet.
Aren't you a mechanic?
I didn't really do the pre-race prep on this before I came.
Okay.
And I didn't check my shocks, which is important with Fox Air shocks.
There we go.
And didn't tighten my front brake lever, and of course I had my petcock leaking yesterday, but it quit.
Yep. All right. So here you hear the typical day at the racetrack. Thank you, sir.
Hiding your baldness?
Yes, I'm hiding my baldness. Now, what was your question?
Tell us about your bikes.
Well,
This is a 1980 Mako 440 that I rebuilt with the help of Fritz Gunther, and it's back to close to being like new. Runs really good, and it suits me well. Goes real fast and takes care of the bumps. And this one, this is a 1977 Mako 400, and you'll see the difference here is that it's not as much suspension in the front or the back, but it's still a fantastic motorcycle. This young man looks like he'd fit right into it.
You want to tell me what this gap right here is about?
Well, I think that's just how they manufactured it, and it has really nothing to do with other than that's how it worked out. This is Fritz's 490. This is a 1981. It's the next year after this one. Old shot machine.
All right. That's all for today.
What a great job by Brandon up there. And from what I understand, and I was talking to Jordan about this, Brandon was really fast too on that CR80. There wasn't a schoolboy class. There wasn't a class for him to ride in. So they put him in with some novice riders on bigger bikes, and he was keeping up with and passing a lot of the 250 novices that were riding up there this past weekend. Brandon, I want to thank you so much for all your work out in the field. And if there's another race up there, I think we're going to let you loose again. I like the question about what about the gap between the seat and the gas tank on that Mako and the broken shocks. And boy, I'll tell you, the kid's got a future, I think. Jordan, great job with the coverage. And Brandon, thanks once again for being up there and helping Jordan with our race day coverage. What's it worth? Got a real special bike for you here tonight. We've got this, of course, is sponsored by Full Circle Racing, but the bike that we have in the What's It Worth segment tonight is a 1975 Honda CR125. This, of course, is the time where you get to type in the comment section what you think this bike sold for, okay? This bike sold this past week on eBay. It is essentially a brand new bike. I spoke to Charles Goff about this bike, and what he told me was that he had found it in Southern California 9 years ago in a garage. It was covered, and it appeared that it didn't have any use on it. Underneath the back fender was some paperwork that was taped to it, and the paperwork underneath there corresponded with the certificate of origin that he received with the bike, and the green sticker also corresponded with that. While it had a green sticker, the bike had never been ridden, and it is essentially a brand new old stock bike. There are no apologies that need to be made, not a ding, not a nick, not a tear, nothing. Charles put this bike on eBay, and it did sell. For how much? If your guesses were under $10,000, you could take a minute. I'll give you just a couple of seconds to start putting in prices that were over $10,000. $12,000, you say. $15,000? This bike sold for an incredible $20,000. Now, give me a minute here. I'll explain to you why. This bike sold for $20,000 to a buyer that was from Holland, okay? And the rate of exchange for euros to dollars happens to be 16,400 euros to $20,000 right now. Still a stack of money for a 1975 CR125, but I guess it was a serious collector. He realized what it would cost either to buy one, have it restored here, have it shipped there. Between taxes, fees, and value-added tax and so many other things that happen when bikes get shipped overseas, he went for $20,000, 16,400 euros, and bought himself a bike. Charles tells me he got the deposit, the money's in the bank. 1975 Honda CR125, brand new, $20,000. That bike will be posted a little bit later on tonight on the Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page. You could learn a little bit more about it and also put in your comments there when you do see it posted. If you have a bike that you're looking to buy or sell and you'd like to discuss the value of it, post some pictures of the bike there at the Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page, and you'll get some really friendly advice from some very knowledgeable guys. And also you'll see some comparisons through the thousands of pictures that we have from not only private sales at eBay, but from Mecum Motorcycle Auction and other public auctions as well. The Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page. Full Circle Racing, you've heard me talk about it before, and we're still talking about it. Powder coated hub special. Tom McAllister will clean them, disassemble them, blast them, mask them, and powder coat them for just $50 a hub, $10 more for the brake plates. And if you don't want gloss black or a satin finish, for $20 more, a one-time fee, Tom will make them any color you like. It's a great way to get your hubs refinished. And of course, if you're buying your rims and spokes from Tom McAllister, send those hubs up there. You can get your whole package put together and get you a nice set of complete wheels back. I got another set back this week from Tom from Montesa. Beautiful job. Beautiful job, Tom McAllister. Thank you for what you do for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Have you ever heard of? This segment is brought to you by Sunrise Vapor Blasting. We'll be talking a little bit more about that in just a second. But I want to know, have you ever heard of a Trans or a Moto Trans AMA? Now, there's some controversy with this because the bike was made in Italy, and some people call it a Transama. Others are calling it a Trans AMA. I don't know why they would call it a AMA, as in Trans AMA, like the name of the race, because, well, Ferrari did make a car named Daytona. So who knows? Anything's possible. I'm going to read to you a little bit more about this bike, and you can make your own decision. The Trans AMA was an Italian motorcycle brand based in Pesaro, Italy. It started in 1977, building 50s, 125s, and 250cc off-road bikes. Their 50cc bikes had Minarelli engines in them, and their 250 bikes had a Hero engine. The Trans Am motocross model was designed by Edmundo Rossi, and it was built around the Hero engine, as I mentioned just a little while ago. It used Marzocchi suspension and components, and it was available in a motocross and enduro version. They also made a few trials versions as well. They did, of course, run into some financial problems, and Rossi passed the ownership on to the Campanelli brothers. The actual name of the bike is often misspelled. Transama, as in one word, Trans-AMA, Moto Transama, or Pesaro Transama. Either way, the Italian motorcycle brand lasted from 1977 to 1985 and then folded shortly after. A very, very interesting bike with a little bit of a confusing name, but some interesting history out of Italy. And now you can say that you've heard of a Moto Transama. Speaking of bikes that were unusual and we hadn't heard of, a couple of weeks ago, we had a bike on the show called a Scott Flying Squirrel. Some of the interesting points about it were that it was built in the late 20s, early 30s. It was actually a two-stroke water-cooled motorcycle. It actually had regular forks on the front, although it had that spring on top. It did have a telescopic fork. Anyway, after seeing it on the show, Robert Oscar Pomeroy, a good friend of ours and contributor, went out and found a video of the bike running. Let's take a look at it and, well, let's take a listen to it. And there it is, the Scott Flying Squirrel. Thank you, Robert Oscar Pomeroy, for doing a little extra research for us so we could all hear what one of those really sound like. Sunrise Vapor Blasting. Mark Farrier-has been doing a great job for us and for other people as well. If you want something vapor blasted, and it's the best way to clean it, whether it's for a boat, a car, or motorcycle, send it up to Mark. Sunrise Vapor Blasting. I'll put it in his tank like this. They do an absolutely incredible job for you. Beautiful finish, doesn't change the profile of the metal, and gets everything as clean as it could ever be. If there's some brass fittings, copper fittings, anything that's on that carburetor or on the part that you're sending in that may be pressed in, it's going to come out absolutely beautiful, just like it does here. Very clean on the inside, very clean on the outside, everything looking just the way you would like it. So check them out online at Sunrise Vapor Blasting, also on Facebook, or get a hold of Mark Farrier. So Mark, we thank you all for how much you do for us at Vintage Motocross Q&A and the great job you're doing for people who are sending you parts. I've been hearing a lot of great things. Trivia is back. And remember, if you won in the last 60 days, do not call in. I'm not going to name names, but do not call in if you've won in the last 60 days. It is trivia, and we are playing for the award-winning bookfinding number 49. The first one to call in will not win a motorcycle, but they will win this wonderful book that was put together by Keith Geisner. And I started to think about this question. I think I had this question on the show a while ago, but look, we're going for it. It's in the queue. Jordan, what's the question? And don't forget, this is a call-in segment, too. Whose tank was this? Who rode with this tank on his bike? That's probably an easy one. There's another part to the question. Why was this tank built? You look at it, you see it's not like even a factory tank or something, certainly not a production tank. Why was this tank built this way? And who helped build the tank? So who rode the bike with the tank on it? Why was the tank built that way? And who helped build the tank? The three-part question. Call in now, 925-234-8181. That's 925-234-8181. Operators are standing by. And I'll tell you, if you could even get 2 out of 3, first part is really easy. Whose tank was it? But if you could get the second part, any one of the second or third question, you're getting yourself a book. And remember, if you won in the last 60 days, don't call in. 925-234-8181. Call in now. This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by Racer X Magazine, the finest motocross publication on your newsstand now and available online. Don't forget to see our ad in the back of this month's issue of Racer X. In 1974, it was 3 for Gaston Ryer. 1 year before there was an official FIM 125cc World Championship class, Gaston Ryer was hired by Suzuki to race the 250 class. The diminutive Belgian ended up winning 3 250 GPs that season, including 1 in Germany in June, in fact, on June 2nd, on this day. And he was beat Torleif Hansen and Russian KTM rider Gennady Moiseev. That's on this day in 1974. In 1984, Kawasaki's Jeff Ward grabbed all the roses at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena to win the AMA Supercross there. Yamaha's Brock Glover took a second, and they were followed by a string of Honda riders, including Johnny O'Mara, David Bailey, and Team Cam's Alan King. In 1985, it's 29 for Showtime. Team Honda's Jeremy McGrath won the San Jose Supercross at Spartan Stadium, and his teammate Doug Henry took a second. Yamaha's Jeff Emig and Larry Ward were third and fourth. It was McGrath's 29th career AMA Supercross win, giving him a new record, beating out the previous record holders, both Ricky Johnson and Bob Hanna. McGrath had already clinched his 3rd straight title, and it was 29, number 29, in 1995 for Showtime. And when I looked all these up, they all happened to happen on June 2nd. June 2nd. What do we got next, Jordan? Announcements. The announcements, of course, are brought to you by Golan Products. I'll be telling you a little bit more about their filter in just a moment. But let's get to the announcements first. What do you got up there, Jordan? Vintage Motocross Radio is now on podcast on 9 different channels. You can enjoy over 45 interviews that I have done in the past year, from Garrett Wilson to Brad Lackey to Rodney Smith, and so many more. So be sure to join us on Vintage Motocross Radio, either on Facebook or on YouTube, but of course on the podcast as well. Susie's here, and I think we have a winner in the trivia contest. And it's Jeff Kokoski, you're saying?
Yeah.
Jeff Kokoski, it's Joe Abadi. You're live on Vintage Motocross Q&A.
Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Greetings from Central Pennsylvania.
You're calling from Central Pennsylvania. Well, that's great. Now, you heard the questions. Whose gas tank was it? Why was it built? And who helped build it? Let's see if you can come up with the answers to that.
Well, as soon as I saw it, I recognized it from Terry Good's collection. It's Roger DeFoster's famous stand tank, gas tank from, and I think it was like the 72 or 73 Belgian GP, because they needed a little extra gas in the bike.
Yeah.
Something about the story that Roger drove all night or something to Lucian Tilken's shop to have them modify it, and then he drove back for the GP.
That's right, Jeff. You went 3 for 3. The only thing you didn't miss, because it was at Sint-Anthonis, which is in the Netherlands. So it wasn't Belgium, but it was very, very close. And yes, he did drive all night, and he and Lucian Tilkens did put that added piece on top of that tank so Roger would not run out of gas. They were testing on Friday and realized that something had to be done, otherwise they were never going to finish that race. It did come from Terry Good's page, and you went 3 for 3, Jeff. So you will get a book, Finding Number 49, compliments of Keith Geisner. We're going to give the phone back to Susie, and she's going to get your address, or text it to me, send me a message, and we'll get a book right out to you, Jeff.
All right. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
Good evening.
Thanks for watching the show. Bye-bye. Also, we have a random share giveaway winner, Dave McLean, because he's watching from the hospital. Now, I don't know why Dave McLean is in the hospital. I hope you're doing well, Dave. We are going to get you a nice sticker sheet, compliments of Vinco, for being the random share giveaway winner tonight. You get me your address, I'll get it wrapped up and right in the mail to you. So congratulations, Dave McLean and Jeff Kokoski, tonight's winners on the Harley book and the random share giveaway. Where are we, Jordan? Oh, this week's guest, Lane Levitt. Great guest. It's going to be so much fun. Lane Levitt is a 3-time national champion trials rider. After years of experience with trials riding, he went on to do some incredible things in Hollywood with stunt work, especially involving motorcycles. Now, you may have heard of him. You may have heard of his wife, of course, too. Both of them are involved in stunt work in Hollywood. We're going to be talking to Lane, and maybe Debbie Levitt will get on the phone as well. I don't know. But Lane did so much creating special ramps and special things with hydraulics in it, where some stunts were really, really taken to the next level. You'll recognize a lot of his work from the motorcycle work that was done in Terminator and so many other things as well. So we're going to be talking to Lane Levitt about being a trials champion, but of course his long career and how he changed the way motorcycle stunts were done in Hollywood. That happens this Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Vintage Motocross Radio. Tony Divino, a good friend of ours, always tunes into the show. He's been to my shop a few times. This past weekend, Tony was up in the Great Northwest. He was visiting his sister shortly before the race that we talked about, the one in the Pacific Northwest there, and complained that he wasn't feeling well. His sister happened to be a nurse. She took his blood pressure. He said, Tony, we're taking you right to the hospital. It's a great thing that they did because he had a blocked artery. It was blocked 90%. He was just about ready or was experiencing the early signs of a heart attack. We immediately took him in for surgery. Tony Divino is doing much, much better. I understand he is recovering. So if you are a friend of Tony Divino's, keep him in your thoughts and prayers. Tony, if you're feeling up to it and you're watching the show, we hope you're doing well, my friend, and let us know when you're back in the area and that you're doing well. In the meantime, we will keep you in our thoughts and prayers. Tony Divino. Got a great race coming up down there. Tammy and Ralph Greenhill, for years, they've done so much and given so much back to the sport of vintage motocross. And once again, they're back down at Glen, Helen on Saturday, June 26th from 10 to 4. This is the old school Scrambles track. And this is really great because Rod Lake Racing supports this, and all the kids always ride for free. It's a TT Scrambles. It's round 4. It's an Armour Southwest Regional, and it's just a vintage and a post-vintage weekend. A lot always going on down there. June 27th in Glen Helen on the truck track. Check them out online. I know there's always great things going on down there when Tammy and Ralph Greenhill put on a race. Also, today's cycle coverage is always there at the old school Scrambles event. And this was formerly done by Tom Corley, who sadly passed on. But now it is being covered, and the gentleman's name is, Jordan, I don't think, anyway, it's today's cycle coverage. They're doing a great job of covering the events down there in Southern California, and they'll be there for the old school Scrambles event as well. I don't think Jordan gave me the name of who the person is who's covering the events at this time, but it's today's cycle coverage. It's a great event coming up down in South Jersey. Roy Vanderveer sent me this, and it's coming up October 15th, 16th, and 17th. And what makes it great is there's 3 groups that are going to be helping put this together at the Field of Dreams. So it is an ARMA event, it is an American Classic Racing event, and they're working together with the New Jersey Motocross Field of Dream Club to bring you this 3-day event. Friday, there's a practice. Saturday's a race. Sunday, there's a GP-style event, followed by an open practice after that. So you got 3 days to race vintage, post-vintage. I think there's some modern racing going on there. It's at Field of Dreams. Check them out online at www.njmfod.com. New Jersey Field of Dreams. 36th Annual Dinosaur Daze, June 12th and 13th. That's next weekend. You better get ready. That's vintage racing at Riverdale Raceway. That's up where that just the other race was, the other Pacific Northwest race was just last weekend. Or maybe it wasn't. This one's at Spirit Lake Highway in Washington. There's vintage motocross, there's Evo, there's the Buck Murphy Memorial Race, and there's an Evo GP. That's coming up June 12th and 13th, next weekend. You want to check them out online and find out exactly what's happening up there at the 36th running of Dinosaur Daze. I think they were calling it Dino Daze there. Anyway, another event I've been telling you about for the last couple of weeks. We've spoken to David Dewhurst about it online several times. It's coming up this weekend. It's at Glen Helen, the Motocross Revival. This is put on by American Retrocross. It shows a lot of things happening during the golden era of motocross, and some of the factories are bringing out some of the old works bikes. There's also going to be a meet and greet with some of the stars and legends of the past. I understand Gary Jones is going to be there and a lot of other guys as well. So you want to get down there this weekend. It's on the national track, June 6th at Glen, Helen. There's also a silent auction that will be going on, and there's camping there. So check them out at American Retrocross. That's happening this weekend. The 52nd running of Hangtown is really getting close, September 11th, only a couple of months away. That is in Prairie City, the Sacramento off-road vehicle park that they have up there. It is the Hangtown Motocross Classic. It's the 52nd running. There will be a special tribute because it is on September 11th. I think there's going to be a flyover, and there's going to be a lot of other things going on there as well. I know tickets have gone on sale already, and they've been selling pretty quickly. Why? Because it's the last race of the season, too. So if it's a tight points race going in to the Hangtown National, you might see a big, big race going on up there, a big deal of who's going to walk away the champion from that race. Okay? So get your tickets while you can. September 11th, I'm going to be there. Glen compact fuel filters. You've been hearing me talk about them for about a couple of months now. There's not much more I could say about them. Other than that, it is absolutely the best filter you're ever going to buy, and it's probably the last filter you're ever going to buy. They're made of billet aluminum. They come in blue, orange, red, and of course silver. You can take them apart. The filter is absolutely so easy to clean. Comes apart, snaps back together. Actually, it screws back together. It's got some O-rings in there, and it gets the filter down, gets to filter the dirt down to 10 microns, which you can't even see with your eye. This is the last filter you're ever going to buy. They make it for minis, off-road bikes, adventure bikes. Vintage motocross guys are using them too. A lot of guys are using them who've had problems with liners in their tanks or rust problems where they clean them out. They're now using filters like this to really, really trap and capture all the rust or any debris that might be in those old vintage tanks. You want to check them out online at golanproducts@yahoo.com. They're also looking for representatives on the road. So if you're out there representing some other products, get a hold of Golan Industries and see if you can become a distributor for them as well. Thank you, William Golan, for all you do for us here at the show. The finish line is sponsored by Northwest Mako CZ. Let's see what we have in the finish line tonight, Jordan. Oh, we have the products from Northwest Mako CZ. You know, Alan Brown has really one of the greatest little websites I've ever seen for parts, especially for Makos and CZs. He's got the 72 through 80 air boot. He's got the 80 through 81 airbox insert that everybody needs inside their airbox. You should check your airbox out right now. Make sure you have one in there, or if it's still good. And they've also got the CZ filter rod. Now, what's great about this is all of these products are under $20, and they're all useful items that you probably need, or you should have an extra one in your toolbox, okay? In fact, that CZ filter rod, when I say they're under 20 bucks, that filter rod is like under 8 bucks. So it's a really great deal from Alan Brown and Northwest Mako CZ. Check them out online at northwestmakocz.com. Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirts and hoodies are still available. Follow the link in the description of the show. You can get t-shirts for just $19.99. Hoodies are just a couple of bucks more. They're available in gray and white. Get them while they last. Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirts and hoodies. Vintage Motocross sponsorship opportunities are still available. We have some sponsors that have been up here a long time. Some have been up here over a year, like Preston Petty Products, Vinco, Motion Pro has been on with us for over 6 or 7 months now. And so many more. They're here because they're seeing results from the show. We're reaching over 20,000 people a week. We're reaching them through Facebook. We're reaching them through YouTube and through other forms of social media as well. So if you want a performance package, we'll put a budget together for your business, and you could be advertising here on Vintage Motocross Radio and getting some really good exposure for not a whole lot of money. I want to thank you for watching the show this week. I want to congratulate Jeff Kokoski again for winning the Finding Number 49 book. And Dave McLean, you've got a nice little sticker sheet coming from Vinco. Don't forget, join me Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. My guest will be Lane Levitt at Vintage Motocross Radio. And that's it for tonight. This is Joel Body. Thanks for joining me. Gino! 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 Come on, boy. Come on, Gene. Come on. Yes, jumped right up there. Good job, Gino. You see the good job. He is.